everybody. Welcome to Not Real Art.
Here we are.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming today. This is, as we were saying, kind of a milestone day for Not Real Art. We've never filmed our show before, so I hope this is my good side because, you know, who knows, it's too late now. But I'm just so happy to have you guys here. I'm honored. Cheyenne Saunter from the Art Share LA, the executive director. We're here in your amazing event space. Thank you for letting us move in today.
Thrilled to have you guys here. We're actually installing the show for you guys.
I know.
Behind this door right here, so
Yeah.
perfect time.
Well, with your busy schedule, like I can't even believe that, you know, you were able to sit down with us, and I'm so grateful for that. Bless you. Drink some water. We have water in the Not Real Art cup there.
Is it not real water?
It's not real water, that's right. That's exactly right. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming, and I want to just take some time here. Rachel O'Donnell.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Beth Abarovich.
Very good.
Edmund Avarallo.
Arevalo.
Oh, I knew I would get it wrong. And Tony Louis.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm so grateful to have you guys here. So,
Likewise.
the reason we wanted to have you guys on the show today was because you were named recipients of the Not Real Art grant. This year at Not Real Art, we thought that how can we further prove our values and our ethos of helping to celebrate and elevate artists and helping to empower the invaluable work that artists do in terms of their contributions to human culture. And so Cheyenne and I teamed up to launch the grant. And so I'm guessing you guys read about it on the ArtShare website, no?
Yep, or I think Instagram, there might have been, yeah.
Okay, right. Now, how many grants you guys apply for on an annual basis, you think, on average?
Oh.
As artists?
That was my first time.
Yeah, I would say mine too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've applied for quite a few.
Yeah, okay.
Because
So what's that like? Is it, I mean, so you just, are there ones that you apply for every year? Are there new ones? Like, what is that journey like?
It kind of depends. I mean, I've had a few where it's like, you know, they give out a grant yearly or quarterly or what have you.
Right.
And so you apply to those and, you know, sometimes it's grant specific, like it's like, this is one project I really want to do, or it's more about, you know, just like more money to create art or even higher education, whatever it is. But yeah, it's kind of, it's funny because this goes into like ArtShare LA. I have applied to so many grants that when I first like got the email about the ArtShare LA grant, and I mean the ArtShare Not Real Art grant, I was like, this is spam. This couldn't be real.
With a name like Not Real Art, it can't be real.
But I remember applying to it and I was like, I applied a lot of these and I don't hear back. Why am I hearing back? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's when you stop worrying about things that things click and work out. And I think like this, for me, this grant's really a proof of that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, it's when I got there, I knew that I won a grant. Like the same day, I wasn't aware. Like when they called me, when they called me on the stage, I was like, how did they know my name? And then they called me twice, and I was like, oh, why? Okay. So it's me.
You thought it was Conan O'Brien pulling another prank on you.
That would be great.
Well, Evan, how did you feel when you got the news?
It's funny because I applied to I applied to many grants, and then for this grant, it was kind of like, in a sense, last minute. I had it in my calendar to apply, and then I just totally forgot about it. Then I applied, and I was kind of like, in a sense, it worked out because I had to take initiative really fast.
Yes.
So I just got the images that I liked and then just applied, and then I get a reply later on. I'm like, no, this can't be it. You know?
But how much of that is it where if you don't have so much time to think about it and overthink about it and,
Yeah.
and
almost
think
better,
to where
yeah.
you've paralyzed yourself to not respond, is it better just to be like, I have to do this by 4
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I'm out?
Yeah.
I feel, well, and me personally, I feel like it's better to, it's kind of like when you're getting to that point, to the end. I mean, preparation is always key, so like I'm always preparing myself and working on my art. But I feel like when it's those occasions, when it's kind of like you have to take that step, I feel like that one works out really well, like in everything that I kind of do, in a sense. Yeah.
I mean, when you sent out, and then I read the parameters of the, you know, and I thought, that's not me. So many more people need support maybe than I do. And then they said, hey, why is nobody come get out here and apply to this grant, right? There was that other one. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to apply, and I'm going to be completely honest and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
Cheyenne, imagine that, an artist with a critical voice. It's just,
I mean, I feel like ArtShare and Not Real Art, we've tried to remove so many boundaries and barriers so that artists can extend their voice and have a platform to share their work. And I still hear stories where artists are paralyzed by fear or paralyzed by overthought to not put themselves out there. And, you know, bless your hearts, you guys are creating your inner voice. You're sharing your inner voice onto a canvas or whatever, however you display your creativity. And then you go one step further and you send it to us to critically, you know, judge you or examine you. Like, I get that. I get the fear that, fear or overthinking or, you know, whatever process you're going through.
You know, it's insecurity, right? And I'm one of the most insecure people. I know people don't think, they think, oh, you know, no, actually, there are all those voices, right? Because it's junior high school stuff. It's baggage from the playground, you know? And so, well, when it comes to grants and finding grants, are there places that artists go? I mean, are there websites? Like, how do you guys find the grants typically that you look for?
Well, there's a California, you know, Artist Council, Art Council that has some grants on there or opportunities that I always look at.
Right.
I'm trying to think of other venues, but that for sure is always something I always kind of.
So, I mean, our grant was very modest. It was a $12,000 grant. We awarded $1,000 to 12 artists, 4 of them sitting here. How did you spend the money? Did we go to Vegas? What did we do?
I wish. Like, oh my God, can you imagine? I spent my art grant on strippers.
You know, that's creative.
I did expect flowers, guys.
I mean, honestly, so much of art I think that people don't really think about is making art is kind of expensive.
Yes.
And as someone who uses like oil sticks and canvas, like this little oil stick is $20. So it's like when you're using multiple of those, so it really just with supplies and buying things, because I think sometimes for me, it's not a question of I don't have ideas. It's like I have so many ideas that it's hard for me to be able to actually create them and like, you know, work at the scale I'd like to. So things like this really help you to be creative, and not only to be creative, but kind of do what you want with the money. Because I think sometimes with art grants, it's like, oh, this is an art grant for watercolor artists. You may use this towards watercolor, and like, or they expect you to kind of, you know, especially more formal grants, they want you to receipt everything. Especially if it's kind of like a state grant or something, you know, more government related. Yeah. So you have to turn receipts. So this really kind of, you know, if you want like 3 of those like yellow ochre oil pastels, you grab those, which is like really nice and freeing for you know, making artwork.
Right.
The grant for me, like when I got there, I was literally broke. Like I called a friend, and I was like, Nicole, can you please order some food for me, because I don't have the money yet, but I'm sure I'm gonna give it to you back. And then I got there with no money, and I got out with money. So I was like, wow.
It's a good day.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a beautiful story. That is serendipity.
Yeah, because traveling from Haiti and coming here, you know, I didn't plan to stay that long. Right. So it was great.
That's beautiful. Edmund, how did we spend the money?
For me, it went to bills and my kids.
Right on. You better feed those kids, man. Yeah. How old are your kids?
My son, he's 5.
Okay.
And then my youngest son, he's 6 months.
Wow, brand new.
Yeah.
Oh man, you look too well rested.
He's very calm.
That's amazing. What are their names?
Edmund Jr. and the other one is Elijah, the youngest.
Do you have 2 little artists? What are we dealing with?
Edmund Jr. Every time I'm painting in the yard, he'll come out and be, hey, Dad, I want to paint with you. Can I paint with you? I'll set him up a canvas and we'll sit there together and work. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. Wow. Beth?
Definitely supplies. I think I spent a lot on resin because it's very expensive.
Yeah.
But you know, it actually kind of like it gives you time, I guess. You know, like I do some side things that I feel like I have to do to kind of justify the supplies or the So it kind of gives you that luxury of saying, you know what, my time's more important than that. I don't want to do that. I think I'll just focus on this.
Right. Because
So-
you guys are all full-time artists. I mean, there is no side hustle.
No, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Right. So, yeah.
You know what I was saying, actually, because I kind of was a stay-at-home mom. So when you're a mom, it's like I'm doing everything. Like
Sure.
I'm cleaning the house, I'm feeding the kids, the dog. The dog would not, if I wasn't there, oh my God, I was gone for 10 days, I brought the dog with me. I mean, because I just didn't trust anybody there,
Yeah.
you know? So, you know, I do things that I don't want to pay people to do because that's like kind of like my money.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, I thought the grant was amazing. And actually gave me, like with my other artist friends, it gave me some cachet.
Nice.
You know, they were really, and some of them are very amazing artists, I think, but they're like really impressed. So, yeah, it's awesome.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So why and this is just a question, bigger question for the group, because I mean, part of the value of having a grant is it sort of empowers your careers, and artists notoriously, you know, they're challenged. You know, it's tough out there as a small business. 90% of small businesses fail. And an artist is a small business, right? So what are some of the challenges that you guys face as a small business in terms of the struggle to monetize your art and to sell through your inventory and those kinds of things?
Well, the art I make is totally, I mean, the art I make is
Yes.
totally uncommercial. You know,
Yeah.
I know there's absolutely no real outlet for that.
Right.
You know, so, but it just allows, like I took some printmaking classes and I realized that that's a nice, like more commercial outlet that
Sure.
feeds right into my sculptural process. So, yeah, I don't have to answer your question, but
Yeah,
that's,
no,
where,
I just-
that's
you-
where I'm trying to bridge those things
Sure.
and really trying to be more practical because I think I'm inherently, when it comes to art, impractical.
Right.
So I'm trying to, yeah, I'm trying to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think another big thing is, you know, you're lucky enough to get these jobs, which is great, and then, you know, freelancers' burden, it's like trying to get people to pay you. That's a
Right.
huge thing, because I've had parts, you know, where it's like, you know, ostensibly I have $5,000 coming to me. However, you know, it's difficult getting people to pay you, and so kind of learning to do the business side of things, which, you know, we're all kind of creative, so that's a learning process, and learning to, you know, you need to invoice people and kind of keep on track of those things, and you know, kind of those things that you would think would be part of an accounting part of a small
Sure.
business.
Sure.
You kind of have to take that on, and you know, it's a lot of, I think, a lot of art. I think people think, oh, I'm just painting all day and having fun, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of upkeep in business. You know, you need to be photoshopping your images so that they look great. You know, everything's photographed well. You need to be responding to emails and then filling out forms. You know, make sure you have all the sizes of things listed so when people ask, you have all that information. It's just a lot of business upkeep, and I think, you know, I said the other day, you know, applying to grants, I was like, you know, I never thought I'd be writing this much as an artist.
Yes.
So things like that, you have to keep all of those skills on top of your creativity, like at your fingertips.
So in terms of organizing your schedule and your time, right? Because you need to be making art, right?
Right.
You need to be handling the accounting and
Right.
the social media marketing and all of these things. How do you guys go about scheduling your day and your week in terms of making sure that all of that business is getting handled and you're making art?
Yeah, and another point you haven't mentioned is going and seeing art. Because that's like a, you know, a crucial thing that, you know, going to openings, you know, going and seeing art, all that stuff. Is it like another added layer, you know,
Yes.
on top of it?
Well, and that, I mean, in business parlance, they'd probably call that networking, but
Yeah.
also what you're talking about is research, right? And it's inspiration. You're looking for research or looking for inspiration, you know,
Right.
going and seeing what's out there.
Right.
But
And
then
finding
there's
people
the-
like mind
Yeah.
that might be as interested in your,
Right.
you know, yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's actually a good segue, Edmund, into a question that I had for you guys as well, in terms of, you know, being an artist is oftentimes a really lonely kind of profession, right? Because you're in your studio making work. How do you find community, Edmund, as a working artist? I mean, where do you find your colleagues, and how do you go about getting out into the world and finding that inspiration?
Well, for me, I feel like traveling helps a lot in inspiring my art. So kind of like this past couple weeks, I went to Hawaii and then I went to Yosemite, and I've been having this like urge to paint landscapes. So like I feel like, I don't know, the way I guess it's all about being free, I guess, in a sense. Yeah, that answers.
So so when it comes to organizing your time, are you pretty rigorous with your schedule, or no? You sort of like, no, each day is its own, is revealing itself to me. And
good question.
Yeah.
When it comes to the business side of things, like for me, I feel like having that organization, and like when I have to post or when I have to create ads or stuff like that in order to promote myself, I feel like that side of me has to have that direction, has to have like, I have like a whiteboard and I write down, I have to do this, this, and this. But at the same time, when it comes to art, it's kind of more free to me. Like I just let my hand go. And like in regards to like getting inspiration as well, like I just kind of just go on journeys, and I have to see this thing and feel this in order to be inspired to work on something, I guess.
So as an artist, do you feel a need to fellowship with other artists, or do you feel like, no, you know, I'm good?
I guess for me, because in a sense, I grew up like as an introvert, so it's kind of hard for me to be out there and like. But I know it's a crucial part of becoming successful in the art business. Like you have to have these relationships, and you have to be outgoing and meeting people, and I kind of struggle with that in a sense sometimes. Yeah.
Sounds like an artist to me. You know, I've said, you know, we've had these conversations before, and you know, I know some artists say, you know, but I'm not, you know, like I'm not a social person. Like I don't want to like deal with these strangers or whatever. And I'm like, it's totally okay to be antisocial. In fact, you know, like kind of feels pretty natural and normal. But like, you know, just don't. You know, don't hesitate or don't flinch when somebody asks you about your work. You know, be bold, tell your stories. You know, and because you know, if you're not tooting your own horn, right? Who else is, right? Tony, so in Haiti, like, how are you finding community as an artist in Haiti?
I'm an introvert too, but I'm a people guy too, and. I love working with kids. I do a lot of workshop with orphans through NGOs, and which is good. That I also do illustrations, and I always try to partner with an NGO to do like awareness messages that they want to promote, and the community I find it's mostly with people that I work with, or I always go to in the ghettos and talk with them, with the kids and whoever is there, because in Haiti they really like artists, so I try to inspire them however I can. And but I don't really go out. Like I could go to an exhibit, but sometimes it's kind of hard to keep up with how things are going in Haiti. Today everything could be fine, tomorrow and everything could be chaotic.
So, okay, so you guys may not know this. I learned this through interviewing Tony and learning more about him. But Tony had this kind of unbelievable experience in Haiti when Conan O'Brien shows up in Haiti, and he ends up on the show.
Yeah.
So
surreal.
I'm guessing after your appearance on Conan O'Brien, maybe your fame in Haiti blew up a little bit.
That's amazing.
You know, someone told me something right before I came to LA, and he was looking at me, and then he was like, "You don't know how famous you are." I was like, "What do you mean?" And then he was like, "You, like the way you are." I was like, I don't think about fame. I'm just doing what I love, and that's it, you know?
Yes.
And after the Conan O'Brien show, I remember another friend came at me, and I said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And then he looked at me, I was like, "I thought you wouldn't say hi to me." I was like, "Why?" because you were in Conan O'Brien show. I was like, but it doesn't change who I am, you know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
And of course it helps me, especially here, because in Haiti, if you say that I've been to Conan O'Brien, I was like, who?
Yeah, right,
You don't know,
exactly.
really, you know?
Yeah.
It's mostly here that when I say that and people are like, oh.
Sure.
And then I was like, oh, okay, so it's really good, you know?
Well, so that was a big break for you in so many ways. Beth, is there a big break that you've had, a moment in your career where you feel like, wow, that was a lucky break?
Well, you know, I have a really short, very short, because I was really a fashion designer before,
Yes.
and then I quit.
Well, you worked with Bob Mackie, no?
Yes, yes. I worked for
Right.
Bob
So what
Mackie.
was that like? I mean, that's a kind of an interesting
Well, you know,
career.
because I went to Otis for fashion design.
Yes.
They're known for fashion design, and I actually had a choice between Bob Mackie or Rampage. If anybody knows what Rampage is, like fast, young fashion.
yes. Melrose Avenue, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm just like, you know, if I wanted to make money, I would go with Rampage, because then you kind of get into that, you know, circle where you start getting connected and you know people and you work your way up the ladder. Or I could be in a really interesting place.
Yeah.
And so I chose Bob Mackie.
So
Who's
is
Bob
it
Mackie? I'm
interesting
sorry.
place or douchebags? No, no. I was-
You know, he's a total doll.
Yeah.
He's really, I mean, it's so hilarious when you first meet him.
Yeah.
He is, he wears like a plaid shirt and with a over a t-shirt with jeans and Birkenstocks. And you're just like, wait, what? You know, I mean, like,
Emperor never has any clothes, right?
yeah, and he grew up in California, so I think, you know,
Yeah.
in the casual side is he was a fashion designer.
Thank
And
you.
and he styled Cher. He's known for styling Cher.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So, okay, so your background's fashion, but your journey into art was something that came down the road a bit.
right. Well, you know what? My daughter's 20 now, and my son is turning 13. I just said about 4 years ago I'm going to get my MFA. And I live really close to the art center. And the art center was an amazing experience, but I'm just saying it was because it was close. You know, it was like very close. So, yeah, that was really my, you know, I know I had the goods. I knew I had ideas. I knew I could do it, but I kept butting my head up against the wall, like trying to figure it out. And then when I was around other people of like minds, like all the time, you know, like I had never read any theory. I had never done any of that. You know, all of a sudden we're really talking about it, and it's really like you're being really fearless, because some of these people, like you guys, have been, you know, really working at art for a long time, and I was just like, I just threw myself into the wolves, and every day I was like, you know, I would be crying in my room, drinking wine in my studio, like you know, having studio visits with faculty. I'm like, I gotta have a drink, but you know, I'd be crying. But then I just kept. Then I said group and say, okay, what's going on here? What did I learn from this? What am I doing?
Yes.
And then by the third year, you know, it was like, oh my God, I found something that I can really. You know, pull from. And what's so crazy, it was like I came back home.
Right.
Because when I started there, I guess they thought I was going to be the fashion person. And I was really like, I want to explore and figure out what I want to do. I want to learn some different processes. I want to figure it out. And then about midway, I just started sewing. I just, you know, I hadn't started sewing and started knitting and started doing the things that you know, came naturally to me, but in a different way, you know.
Right.
And
Your work is so beautiful, and you definitely see that there's a connection to the fashion world. There's a lot of skill inside of your work.
Yeah.
So during the process of Art Center, how much of unpacking and kind of disconnection did you have to go through in the fashion world in order to kind of unpack it and then get back into it? And
oh, it was a
reassemble?
total denial.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a total denial, but also like, you know, there's like this being a feminine artist, working in textiles, being in fashion. I mean, there's like a stereotype of kind of, and then I had to kind of, and that was my problem. You know, the stereotype was my problem because it really wasn't there. And so I worked in resin, and I learned how to cast things, and I looked at people that resonated with me, like Linda Banglis and Isa Genskin and Sheila Hicks and all those people, and Jessica Stockholder. And I was like, there's something here that resonates with me, and I just kept digging it. But I was total all the way away.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the summer, after my first year, I made the really big pink dress with clear pockets all over it, and then I put toys in all the little pockets on a little tiny mannequin. But it was like huge. It like filled my whole studio with just like every kind of. And so that was like, I was like, oh, okay, this feels good. I guess that's kind of where you come to.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Rachel, was there a moment in your journey as an artist that was a breakthrough for you?
I mean, there was no real like lightning in a bottle type moment.
Sure.
I mean, they'll have to add that in for the biofilm. But I mean, for me,
We are in Hollywood. Yeah, it could happen.
You can call me. But for me, I've always been doing creative things. I actually went to a performing arts high school for ballet. I thought that's what was going to happen. That ended up not happening, and I started working in art because my parents ended up moving when I was in high school. So I did 2 years as this ballet conservatory. I'm like, this is what's happening. Moved, didn't end up finding like a dance studio, moving into that. So I started taking art classes in high school. And I just really kind of took to it, and the professor at the time was very supportive, and she was like, you know, you should really consider doing this professionally. Like, you have a good hand, and I just really enjoyed it. So I went, and then I applied to art school. I got into all the schools I wanted to get into, and so I was lucky to be able to pursue that. And it's been, you know, a huge love affair that's cost me, you know, financially, but as all good romances do. But yeah, and I've been really lucky. It's something I really love. I do it every day, and I love to consume it on every level. Like, I go to a show or see new films, or I try and do that every day. My friends are all artists, so you always have this, I'm lucky to have that support and people you can talk ideas with and who understand where you're coming from. Sometimes, you know, when you talk about art with people who are in the creative field, they just like, I don't get it. Why don't you just like charge $4 million for a painting and then never paint again? It's like, that's not how it works. And like, or just sell work to a rock star.
What are some of the common pain points and struggles that you and your colleagues, your other artist friends, you talk about? I mean, do the struggles, are there common struggles, or are they very unique?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, like, it's probably the same in any creative industry. I don't know actors or singers, but I imagine it's kind of similar. You know, how to stand out, and, you know, working with certain galleries, and you know, getting your work noticed, strategies for social media. I know that was a huge part of the Not Real Art conference, which was great. You know, also copywriting is a huge thing too, because I've had multiple friends, and myself included, who, you know, all of a sudden your friends are sending you something on Instagram like, isn't that your painting? And it's all of a sudden, it's on a streetwear brand, and they use your art on everything. And all of a sudden, like, okay, well, what do? I can't, you know, I can't afford a lawyer. Are you kidding? Right. So it's like kind of figuring out how to combat that, and you know, answering emails is something always like, oh my God, I have like 60 emails. But
well, you said earlier, right, that you're sort of surprised at how much writing you're doing as an artist. And that also is, you know, kind of a pain point, I bet, right? If you're not used to writing, suddenly, you know.
All of a sudden, you know, it's like, or just like, I think sometimes we were talking actually about artist statements the other day, and my friends Jillian and Kristen, they have a show at Corey Helford, and they're doing this whole show about flowers and floriography, I believe it's called, but like each flower has a different meaning, especially in the Victorian times. And like, you know, it's interesting, you know, it's like we were talking about how when you finish the body of work, all of a sudden it kind of coalesces, and it's much easier to kind of write about it. And sometimes you kind of have to step away from the work to write about it. Because we're so close to it as the person who makes it. So you have to be able to kind of think of it third person. And another thing about writing is, you talked about kind of tooting your own horn, and it's true, it's very difficult, because you don't want to be like, Grant winner Rachel O'Donnell is from Texas and blah, 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 blah. You know, that just sounds like I'm being an asshole. But you have to kind of, I tell myself, I'm writing about somebody else. It's like if I had a job, and like I'm writing about Sally Smith, and we're trying to get her a job, and like you have to be able to write like that, and it's hard. I mean, I think for me the best way to learn is when I go to these artist shows, read their artist statements, and like you know.
Yeah, it's good to read other statements to kind of see what voices they choose and what you connect with. I'd love to ask you about your work, since you do so much writing about it. ArtShare has had the pleasure of hanging you twice now. Or is Not Real Art
It
your
would be-
second?
Not Real Art would be the second.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
So one's before this. Yeah.
So I notice in your work you do a lot of figurative, but it's like distorted or dystopian figurative.
Yeah.
Almost like a melting.
Right.
Like what is it? Is it destructing fashion? Is it destructing beauty? Like what are you doing with your figurative work?
Kind of works. It's definitely kind of a deconstructive thing about the feminine. And you were talking about, feminar and the way that's perceived, and I definitely make that a focal point of my work because I think a lot of serious work like Art Basel or what have you, it's very dark, very gray, very masculine. So I really try to utilize those tools, those colors, because I think as an artist we all like to rebel, and I think it's important to shine light on that other visual perspective. And especially with my figures, I mean a lot of it. One of the pieces that's going to be at Not Real Art is a self-portrait I painted of myself in what would be archetyped as, trailer trash. I have Coke can curls, and I have, a cheetah print Walmart out dress, cigarette.
Specific to Walmart. I love that.
It is nonfiction. There's a lot of research. Fortunately, not that much because I'm from Texas. But so I think a lot of it's kind of deconstructing that, and I think what's interesting about figurative work is that a lot of female portraits are done by males, which is, male identifying, but a lot of that, it kind of doesn't have as much nuance because as a woman who creates, figurative portraits of women, you have a little bit layered view, and you have a little bit more breath instead of it just being a static subject. You can kind of breathe more life into it, or at least that's what I try to do with my figures. So a lot of the time it's kind of investigating, what is this monolith? Because I think, especially that series right now, we're all kind of wondering, what does it mean to be American? What does that mean for me? How do I fit into that imagery? And so a lot of those images are kind of exploring the universality of that and the differences and where things kind of intersect. And I think for me, figures have always been more interesting. I would love to challenge myself to do landscape, especially after I just came back from Massachusetts, because that's so out of my league. But I think people are interesting, so that's kind of what I gravitate to.
That's great.
And Edmund, you are going to start doing more landscaping.
I know, that's what I was
And
You're my inspiration.
I know, I love it. Your work is very abstract, but yet you kind of have this like 80s feel to you with your geometric shapes that you throw on the canvas. So how do you think your abstract is going to feed into the plein air? Are you going to keep that same 80s aesthetic?
Well, I think a lot of my work, it comes from my upbringing. I was born in the Philippines, and then I was raised here. And so what happened was there's always like this push and pull in regards to my culture and then the culture of the Filipino culture and the American culture. And so like, I feel like a lot of my work resembles that because like there's this craziness, which is the abstract side. It's kind of like Philippines, it brings that out of me. And then the more 80s or like the more the figuratives that I'm doing relates to like me being here and learning here and what I've experienced here.
So more structure here. You
yeah,
needed more lines here.
Correct.
Interesting.
And then that's basically it. My work, a lot of it deals with like the political sense of like the whole, like right now the one painting I have that's going to be here, it's a painting of the extrajudicial killings in the Philippines with the president. So it kind of has that relationship to that, but it also represents my uncle who was gunned down in the Philippines last year. Yeah, and that kind of like inspired me to work on that painting.
Was that political or was that in the streets or what?
He was actually running for like a political position as a mayor in the Philippines, and the opposition, I guess they didn't get along, and so he was out jogging and warning, and then just happened like that.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, and I'm sure that's impacted and influenced your work. I can't wait to see that piece.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, speaking of political, it's kind of a great transition to your work. Your work is on the outset, like the first initial reaction, it's playful, it's colorful, it's exciting, there's movement. And as you get closer, you realize that there are no people in any of your paintings. It's their clothing. They're kind of like holograms or ghosts of themselves, and then you see what they're doing, and then the layers are so deep in your work. Can you talk to me about the absence of people in your work?
Well, you can interpret it in different ways, and I always say that I didn't put any skin tone in these people, because a lot of times, especially in Haiti, like even a guy like black guy like me, I'm light skinned, but it's like when somebody's darker skinned than you, they already put you in a category of this new society. So like even between us, there's racism, and it would be better if you can look at the other person without looking at their skin color. And if you notice in the paintings too, they have pots in their head. And I always say, like, you can find a pot wherever you go in the world, and the pot is there to nourish your body, but they don't have any body. So I'm always reminding people that even if you don't see something, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Love, for example, you don't see it. And I always think that you can nourish your body, but you have to remember, I mean, that you have a spirit or a soul, and you have to nourish it too. And it goes with how you get along with people, the vibe that you create around you, and to be kind, you know. Certain things that, like I said, you don't see them, but they exist. Like we are here together talking, and there's a good vibe, you know. It's a great, but you don't see that, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, it's really deep, deeper than what you see on the painting, because I don't want to show the skin. But I'm always a kid inside of me, and I always say that I want to, with my art, I want to uplift people. I want to, when you look at the painting, at least you feel a joy and love, you know. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Well,
That
in
was
fact,
beautiful.
that is actually a beautiful way of wrapping up our show today. Like, that's a wonderful notion.
Thank you.
So, thank you guys
Yeah.
for sitting down with Cheyenne and I to talk about receiving the Not Real Art grant. And will you promise to come back in the future? And because you're part of the Not Real Art family now, right? You know, and family might be the other F word, but you know, we like to put the fun in dysfunction. So, you know, please come back. And we look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday night at the Not Real Art exhibition.
Absolutely.
All right.
We look
Thank
forward
you.
to hanging
there.
it. It's going to be
Cheers.
so exciting, guys. Yeah.